The preseason is here as the New Orleans Saints prepare for the 2022 campaign. And they hope to avenge a very painful conference championship loss. They were 52 seconds away from the Super Bowl when the Chicago Bears took the lead, and then an interception derailed their season. We have some new faces on offense and some new faces on defense. As for starters, our defensive starters remain the same. Something that I'm very proud of, that we've been able to maintain that continuity. Essentially, we have the same defensive front and secondary with some backups in place. We have, of course, the normal duo of Marshall Larimore and Jocqua Fassitt Sr. We had Samuel Ferguson as the nickel corner, but we still have Trey Waynes, who we brought back this offseason. Ferguson, like I said, is going to be the nickel. Waynes probably will be a fourth corner for us. On top of that, we have Sam Moreland, maintaining the strong safety role. At free safety, we have Braxton Yates. We traded Sheldon Laws away, who was our backup free safety during the offseason, which, for all intents and purposes, I'm okay with. We drafted Deshaun Graves, a strong safety. We have Vidal Grice as another backup. I like the pieces that we have. On top of that, for the linebackers, we have Kadeem Mears, we have Deshaun Hodge, and we also have, of course, Shad Houston. Furthermore, we have as our outside backers, we still have Nickel Shillings, we still have Wes Pitta, and we have Wesley Austin, as well as a third rotational pass rusher. On the defensive line, we have Rankins, we have Tracy, we have Melvin, and we add some more depth and bulk there, and we hope to get some good results with it. I mean, that's really all there is to it. On top of that, we go to the offensive side of the ball, and this is where things get a little bit interesting. We no longer have Kent Clemens, and we no longer have Michael Thomas, which is not new news, but it is still news. On top of that, Heath Bauman left in free agency. So we have the 4th round draft pick, Earl Hayward, we have Chance Hastings, and we have Marcus Mann as our primary tight ends on roster. Who will be getting that starting spot, we'll see. As you're going to watch a little bit of gameplay from TJ Wong here from the Minnesota Vikings. You saw that on that pass attempt. He was just a little bit outside. So, essentially, the tight end job is up for debate. Mann looked good in the red zone, but struggled in some other areas. Chance Hastings really just wasn't good enough for us, and Earl Hayward showed up big time in the preseason. On the offensive line, we still have 4 of our 5 starters. The one replacement is we no longer have Teron Armstead at left tackle. Instead, we have Joey Nichols, who we signed to a long-term deal, I believe it was 5 for $36 million in the offseason. We wanted to bring him back. So he's going to be our starting left tackle for us, and we'll see exactly how that pans out. We drafted a lot of depth on the offensive line, so we'll see if that works out. And then we get to the fun part. The 10th overall pick, A.C. Prather, the speedster, has so much potential to him. His hands are a little concerning, just a little bit. And I do think that we need to see a little bit more out of him before we give him that starting slot receiver role. But someone who definitely has stepped up. Creighton looked solid, but Rashad Maxey looked very good in that slot role during the preseason. I'm not going to say that he's a lock for the role just based on the first game, but he did look very good. Very, very good. Michael Wong is obviously pegged in at starting quarterback. John Hanks is pegged in as the backup. DeAndre Hopkins is pegged in as the #1 wide receiver, and Case Locklear put together a good enough case for him to be our #2 wide receiver. I think that's part of the issue that we had last season with Rashad Max, that we tried him at the #2 spot and it just wasn't good enough. If he had played in the slot instead of Mike Corbett, maybe he could have done better. But, you know, we don't really know. That's really pure speculation. So, point is, we hope that in the upcoming season, Maxey, who's going to most likely start the season as the slot receiver, can play well. We're definitely going to be substituting in Prather and getting him involved heavily in the offense because he's just too important and too quick not to. You know, he is a field stretcher, he is a burner, he is a game changer and a game breaker, all in one. So you want to get him involved as much as possible. And Marcus Mann, he looked pretty good in the preseason. I'm going to be completely honest with you. He looks like he's better. His hands seem a little bit more sure, and I can live with that. You know, that's not exactly something that we expected out of him, but he was wrong. We did expect him to be a bit of a project, but coming into Season 2, he's only 22 years old for him, and I think that we could see some really big improvements from him. At running back, we still have Rakkim Blackman, and that's all you need. Artis Horton is back, though. That's a big deal, because Horton was the hammer to Blackman's lightning, and I think that really, or he was the thunder to Blackman's lightning, and that really helped us throughout the season when we needed some short yard situations, when we needed that big body for pass blocking. I think he really filled that role well. In the preseason, I will be honest, I thought Nichols struggled at times, and we did face some really good defenses in the Vikings and the Texans and the Buccaneers, but he still made some mistakes. And as you're going to see some Earl Hayward, and that is an unbelievable grab from the 4th rounder out of Connecticut. This kid is a monster of a tight end. Just look at the separation he gets. Something very fluid, breaks tackles, has good hands, good after the catch. Earl Hayward is someone who we really are excited about moving forward. Whether he's going to be the day 1 starter or he's going to earn that spot throughout the season, he is going to be a massive force in this offense. You can tell already. He's a seam stretcher, or seam ripper rather, and he can even block. AC Prather, like I said, hands, bit of an issue. He's made some really nice plays in traffic. He's made some plays where he should have caught it and didn't. And that's something that he'll probably have to live with. You know, when you have someone as fast as him, if he was someone who was faster or had better hands, he would have been either a top 5 pick or the number 1 overall pick. I mean, he's that dynamic of a player. So, you know, you live with some of the flaws in players like that because you know they're good. And something that we always like to do, we like to try Marshall Larimore out at that defensive right corner spot in the preseason, try Fassitt at left. Just try to get a feel so if something changes throughout the season, someone gets hurt, we can see whether they're capable of playing in those roles. And I think that's something that, from a content creator perspective, I'm going to add on more in future seasons. Try things like maybe a linebacker on the edge, maybe a defensive tackle or a defensive end on the interior, a corner at safety, things like that. But this is the first time that we're seeing Earl Hayward with the first-team offense. We wanted to put him and Prather in there for the 3rd preseason game, just get a feel for them. And it was very impressive. I'm only going to show you 3 games worth of preseason footage because we have other things to cover. But this is Michael Wong to Earl Hayward. And like usually, Blackman doesn't get many reps. Hopkins, he'll run routes, but he's not going to get many targets in this time period. As Prather with not the easiest play in the world, but that still should have been caught. 4th and 5 from the 43-yard line. Wong from the gun. He's going to fire to Prather. That's a nice grab at the sticks. So he makes up for it. And, you know, you'll see some maddening drops, but you'll see some really nice plays from him. And just watch, if you take a minute and just watch him run, he is clearly a step faster than everybody else on the field, and that's terrifying. In terms of kick return and things of that nature, we have Moses Tuitt and we have Antoine Whiting. The 2 of them will be the primary kick returners. Yeah, the 2 of them will be the primary kick returners. And punt return is going to maintain Whiting, I believe. We liked Case Locklear last year as a kick returner, but we don't want to have our number 2 wide receiver doing that when we have other guys who are pretty much dedicated to special teams on roster. I mean, it's pretty much that simple. As Wong gets spun out by the Buccaneers, and that's a fumble recovery for a touchdown. 1st and 10 from the 46-yard line for Wong and the Saints. And Artis Horton, getting touches in the preseason, breaks a tackle, and using his power and his size, breaking some arm tackles with very good efficiency. Coming out 5 wide, something we might see more of this year. Wong to Prather, and just look at him move. He turns upfield so quickly, and he's so fast. He's going to be really entertaining to watch. And teams are going to have to account for him. They're also going to have to account for this man, the 6'7" tight end out of Connecticut, Earl Hayward, who I've said good things about him, but I was kind of being... I wasn't lying, but I was being very conservative. This guy is a freak of nature, and he is absolutely in line to be the starting tight end for this team. He's that good. 3rd and 1 from the 18-yard line. Wong steps up, finds Hayward, and he's leveled, and he's hurt. Moy with the big hit, and Earl Hayward is hurt, and that is not good because the injury that he suffered are broken ribs. And while AC Prather makes a nice play to wrap up our preseason footage, Earl Hayward's going to miss the first month of the season. So we're going to have to make do for the time being as we put Simonson and Goff on the practice squad. We're going to put Earl Whitehead there as well. And we're going to cut Trevor Siemian because we don't need three quarterbacks at the moment. We have a lot of running backs, and we're going to cut Tavio Hoyt. We liked Hoyt, but he wasn't good enough. You know, he never really panned out into anything. On top of that, we're going to put Creighton on the... I think we put Creighton on the practice squad. I don't know if we carried 6 wide receivers off the top of my head. Logan Seymour to the practice squad for sure. Blanda, keeping. And we have enough defensive linemen that we're going to probably consider moving at least Cale Barlow to the practice squad. That's 7 as of right now. We're not going to move anybody else off of there. We have a lot of corners, and we can hold on to them. Klon Cummings, we're going to probably hold on to. Quintarius Durant, I feel like we are going to cut Durant. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head. But we do cut Siemian, and that leaves 2 more spots. So do we carry 5 wide receivers? Do we carry 6? We're going to put Creighton on the practice squad. We're going to carry 4 tight ends coming into the season for now, because we do like to have those 3 tight end sets, and we have an injury at the moment. And we're going to cut Dallas Blanda. And that's going to round out the roster. So as you can see, we'll just show the roster quickly, showing who we have. Blackman is obviously our number 1. He's already 28. That's so sad. Hopkins, Maxey, Locklear, Prather, and Screen. Earl Hayward, so good. 85 speed. I like our offensive line for the most part. I think Nichols is fine. I'm excited to see what he can do. Gant Stills is hurt as well, as is Vidal Grice. Grice is going to be out for a little while. Stills will be out for a longer while. I think I'm going to show the injuries in a little bit. I'm pretty sure this was before I did any of the upgrades from the preseason. So some of these overalls are a little low, but Braxton Yates, Quintarius Durant. We have 5 safeties or 6 safeties. We have a lot of defensive backs because we like to rotate them and do that sort of thing. Statistically, Hanks was not great. 50 for 100 is not something you're proud of. Rushing-wise, running usually behind the second and third teams. Pretty legitimate stuff there. But overall, you can see who performed well, who didn't. Krenzel allowed a sack, which is surprising because he doesn't allow sacks. Malcolm Forsett, 4 tackles for a loss. Fantastic. Sacks, 2 for Wesley Austin. Good for him. Only 1 interception was from Jocqua. Lutz maintains that he's perfect, and we are aiming for the divisional round at the minimum. We have some tough games. We start the season with 3 straight road games at Rams, at 49ers, at Falcons, and that's going to be the first game of the season, taking on Wesley Ripkowski. Vidal Grice, dislocated hip, out 2 weeks. Hayward, like I said, missed the first month. Partial ACL tear for Gant Stills means that he's out for the first half, basically. And here's a look at the Rams roster. It's an interesting team. Ripkowski's excellent. Todd Gurley is excellent. But outside of that, they have their issues. They absolutely have their issues. So we're going to have to deal with Gurley, which is never going to be easy. And Eldrin Locke is a really good fullback. But Wheaton, Lewis Revis, JT Lester, that's not good receivers. And Andrew Inzer is fine, but they still lack overall performance. Their offensive line isn't great. This is a game that we should win on the road. But it'll definitely be interesting to see the overall performance of Wesley Rubkowski and see how he's grown. Donald, Brockers, Ladarius Presley, Alec Ogletree, and Nico Roseman. This is a very interesting team, and Roseman's really, really good. Really good. So he's going to be scary out at that outside backer spot. Robert Quinn still on the team, but this is not a great roster. This is a team that probably should be penciled in for around 7-9, 8-8, but we'll see. I hope you guys enjoyed Week 1. We'll be coming to you guys on Wednesday. Let me know what you think of the team as a whole. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.